Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I first met Philippa Whitmore in her sun-drenched dining room, surrounded by bone china, crystal goblets, and the quiet tension of judgment. Ralph squeezed my hand under the linen-draped table, his thumb brushing mine like a silent promise. "You're okay. I'm here." But his mother's gaze had already sliced through me. Her eyes paused at my department store dress, 2 seasons old, and flicked over the slight fray at the hem. "So Rachel," she said, her voice smooth and brittle like a porcelain teacup, "where did you say you were studying?" "I'm not in college," I answered carefully, knowing the trap before I even stepped in it. "I'm working right now, saving up, planning to start a business." "A business?" Her brow lifted a fraction. "How?" "Enterprising." Ralph jumped in. "She's got a real eye for design, Mom. Landscapes, interiors. She's amazing." Philippa smiled then, a slow, calculated stretch of lips. "Well, everyone needs hobbies." I swallowed hard. The air was stiff with polite tension, the kind you learn to sit through when you grow up with little. I'd walked into this house knowing I wouldn't fit, but I hadn't expected to feel so small. Later, in the garden, Ralph lit a cigarette, hands shaking slightly. "I told you she's hard. She thinks she's protecting me." "From what?" I asked, arms crossed tight. "From being with someone like me?" I meant it as a joke. It came out as a wound. He stepped closer, pulled me into his chest. "No, from feeling something real. That terrifies her." I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe that love, ours, could stand against the quiet storm that was his family. But even then, deep down, I knew Philippa wasn't a passing storm. She was a climate, and I would have to learn how to survive it or lose everything trying. Still, I stayed, because I loved him. And I believed, foolishly, that love alone would be enough to earn my place. I was wrong. Ralph and I moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment over a strip mall. It smelled like old paint and possibility. I remember standing in that empty kitchen, gripping a used coffee pot I bought at a garage sale for $4, thinking, this is where it begins. My first business was an online floral boutique, bouquets with hand-designed arrangements and local delivery. I worked 12-hour days and made a total of $142 that first month. The second business was worse: personalized home decor signs. I spent more time sanding and stenciling than selling. Philippa, of course, was quietly amused. "Not every woman's meant for the workforce," she told Ralph over brunch one Sunday. I hadn't been invited. "Some girls just aren't built for the climb." He argued with her. I knew he did. But he never challenged her directly. Not really. Philippa had a way of keeping people tethered, as if cutting the rope would make them the villain. I began teaching myself everything I could: SEO, graphic design, content strategy. I watched YouTube tutorials at night with my knees pulled up on the couch while Ralph snored beside me. My hands were always ink smudged or collused, my bank account constantly on the edge of overdraft. Still, I pushed. I wanted to matter. I wanted to win. The third time Philippa asked me, "How's your little hobby?" I smiled and said, "Growing." I just crossed my first 1,000 followers on a landscape design blog I started anonymously. She raised a brow. "Well, it's nice that you have something to do while Ralph builds a real career." Later that night, I confronted Ralph. "Do you ever notice she only compliments me when I fail?" He sighed, rubbing his forehead. She doesn't get it, Rachel. She was raised different." "So was I snapped. "But I don't belittle people to feel taller." He looked tired. "Let's not make this a war." But it already was. Only I was the only one fighting. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling fan's slow, lazy turn. I could feel it. The foundation we were building our life on wasn't solid. It was cracked, sinking. A house made of sand, and I was the only one trying to hold it up. The night Philippa finally showed her teeth wasn't supposed to be dramatic. It was Ralph's father's birthday, an upscale steakhouse, dim lighting, expensive wine, the clatter of silverware on porcelain. I had just signed a partnership deal with a national home design brand. $15 million in valuation, and not a soul at that table knew. I smiled through dry conversation. Philippa wore her pearls like armor and kept sipping Chardonnay like she was waiting for the kill. Then she leaned forward, voice syrupy. "Rachel, darling, how is the blog these days? Still doing those little, what do you call them, yard tips?" Ralph shifted in his seat. I kept my tone even. The blog's doing well. We've expanded into video production, landscapes, interiors, even seasonal style guides. Philippa laughed, sharp and hollow. How adorable. Imagine making a living without a degree. What an age we live in. The table went quiet. Even the waiter froze for a second. Ralph cleared his throat. Mom? But she wasn't done. I mean, really, Ralph? Your father went to Yale. I went to Bryn Mawr. And here you are, married to, well? Her eyes met mine with open disdain. Uneducated trash with a camera. My stomach twisted. I looked at Ralph, waiting for anything. But he just blinked, stared into his wine. I stood slowly. My chair scraped the marble floor. I've paid for your son's medical bills, your daughter's tuition, and half of your damn kitchen remodel. And I never once asked for thanks. My voice shook, but not from weakness, from the weight of years. But you don't get to spit on me and drink the wine I bought. Philippa flushed but said nothing. Rachel, Ralph said weakly, reaching for me. I pulled my hand back. No. If you're not going to stand up to her, I will. I'm done being polite. I'm done being useful and invisible. I turned and walked out into the crisp night air, heels clicking with every step. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Behind me, the door never opened. Not once. After Philippa's outburst at that dinner, after the words, uneducated trash, left her lips and settled into the silence like poison, I walked out, not just from the dining room, but from the years of small cuts she'd hidden in smiles and polite digs. Ralph followed me into the car, his face pale and panicked. Let's just go, he said, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. You need to clean that mess up, I told him, my voice trembling more from clarity than pain. This isn't about another apology. This is about boundaries. You handle it, because I'm done. I drove south that night, alone. No plans, no hotel booked. Just the road and the hum of freedom rattling in my chest. By sunrise, I crossed into Florida. The warmth felt like a balm. The humidity wrapping around my skin like something close to forgiveness. Florida felt like air after suffocation. I rented a quiet bungalow near the Gulf, surrounded by hibiscus and silence. I turned off my phone for 2 days. No emails, no social media, no Ralph. When I finally called him, his voice cracked with tension. I've been trying to reach you. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said, watching waves roll in like breath. But I'm not coming back until I know something's going to change. He sighed. I talked to her, Rachel. She thinks you overreacted. I laughed, dry and humorless. Of course she does. Silence. I didn't marry her, Ralph. I married you. But you've been protecting her at my expense for years. He didn't argue. That silence, that heavy, shameful silence, was the closest thing to honesty he'd given me in weeks. The next day, he flew down. Showed up at the porch with tired eyes and a hotel key. I'm not staying here unless you want me to, he said. But I'm not leaving without fixing this. We started therapy, not the breezy kind. The hard, root-digging kind. At first, he got defensive. She's my mother, he said in one session, voice raised. And I'm your wife, I snapped. But you've never made that clear to her. Week by week, the walls cracked. He admitted how much guilt he carried for choosing me over his family. I admitted how lonely I'd felt, even while building everything for us. The real turning point came on a video call. Philippa, seated stiffly in pearls and disapproval, tried to pretend civility. I want to apologize if I offended. No, I cut in. You don't get to control this narrative anymore. Ralph spoke next, his voice firm for the first time in years. We're building our life without your approval, Mother. You're welcome in it only if you respect Rachel. Fully, period. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, but she said nothing more. We never really meant to stay in Florida. But one morning, Ralph brought me coffee on the porch, sunlight catching the edge of his sleeve, and said, I don't think I want to leave. Neither did I. We bought a white stucco home by the bay, nothing flashy, just quiet and ours. I turned the sunroom into a studio, filming design tutorials surrounded by succulents and sea breeze. Ralph helped expand the company's back-end from here, and for the first time, our business felt like a partnership, not something I carried alone. Philippa visited once. She arrived in a linen blazer, sunglasses bigger than her honesty. The plane was dreadful, she sniffed, and your road is quite narrow. I greeted her with practiced warmth, but the air between us was colder than our sweet tea. She looked around, nodding at the space I built. You've done well. I met her gaze. I always did, you just never looked long enough to see it. She swallowed, didn't reply. We kept the visit short. No overnights, no apologies accepted without change. Ralph walked her to the car himself. When he came back, he didn't say a word, just wrapped his arms around me from behind. Weeks later, I filmed a new video, Why Self-Respect is the New Luxury. I shared a bit of my story, no names, no direct shade, just truth. You can love people and still walk away, I told the camera. You can build a life with someone who once stood silent and still demand they stand up loudly, especially for you. The comments poured in, messages from women with stories like mine. Some left their own toxic tables that week. I stood at the edge of the dock that evening, toes brushing the wood, sunset melting into the water. Ralph came up beside me. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. I smiled. I'm proud of us. We didn't need anyone's permission anymore. Not to live. Not to love. This was our island now, built not on bloodlines or money, but on respect, resilience, and love.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.